loan agreement. So someone actually is lending money to somebody else, right? So we have a lender and we have a borrower. Either as a condition for the loan or for the extension of its maturity. As a condition for the loan means that you go to Wells Fargo, Chase, Capital One, Bank of America. You apply for a loan. That loan could be a personal loan, could be investment loan, could be student loan, whatever the name of the loan might be. And you know from day one that if you are approved for that loan, you cannot return the amount as is. You have to pay more than the principal. So riba actually is unavoidable in this case. Riba is unavoidable. If you want to proceed with that loan, $100,000, business loan, you cannot take that money without committing yourself to paying more. So that is the premium that you have to commit to paying it. Now, this is what I mean by as a condition for the loan. If you say, well, I'm a practicing Muslim, I don't pay interest, then with all due respect, you are by your own. You cannot proceed with the loan. Or for the extension in its maturity, this actually part refers to a very prevailing practice in the Jahiliyyah before the Prophet Muhammad والسلام, or even after his prophethood, but before the permanent prohibition of interest, where people actually used to lend to one another, believe it or not, based on interest-free loan agreement. Interest-free, right? Abdullah ibn Abbas, for example, reports regarding the reason behind the revelation of the ayah, يا أيها الذين آمنوا أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وذروا ما بقي من الربا إن كنتم مؤمنين. Or you who believe, be conscious to your Lord and quit whatever remains from the interest if you claim to be believers. فإن لم تفعلوا فأذنوا بحرب من الله ورسوله. If you are not willing to quit, then you are waging a war against Allah and His Prophet. What was the reason behind the revelation, the wahy of this ayah? He said, according to different resources, for example, you can read it in موطأ الإمام مالك. قال كان الرجل يقرض الرجل فإذا جاء الأجل قال أمهلني وأزيدك. People used to lend to one another based on interest-free agreement, no interest. Now, upon the maturity of the loan, the lender would approach the borrower by saying, listen, the loan is due. You have two options. You either pay me the principal and you're good to go, no consequence. Or otherwise, if you want to keep the money more, or you do not have enough money, I can give you more time, but you have to pay me more. So he introduced interest toward the maturity of the loan. فإذا جاء الأجل قال إما أن تقضي وإما أن تربي. فإذا جاء الأجل قال أمهلني وأزيدك. And in some cases, the borrower actually would approach the lender by saying, okay, I know that the loan is due, I do not have enough money, give me more time and I will pay you more. Give me more time and I will pay you more. فأنزل الله سبحانه وتعالى يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وذروا ما بقي من الربا. Interestingly, the vast majority of the interest-bearing transactions in the U.S. finance system belong to this category, which is the most severe and the most prohibited level or category of interest. You go to any finance institute, you go to any bank, any mortgage company. What is the main job? What is the core business of banks in the USA, for example? Lending money with interest, as simple as that. Now, they do have some other services, for example, like opening a checking account, wiring money. You can open a trust, for example. However, their core business is to lend money with interest. They are not involved in any production of any commodity or product or even providing service to the society at large, other than just lending money and getting interest. So we need to know from the beginning that this category of interest is, number one, the most prohibited one and the most prevailing one nowadays. This is actually what I mean by the premium that must be paid by the borrower to the lender along with the principal, either as a condition for the loan or for the extension of its maturity. Now, the common name is riba duyun or riba al-nasi'ah. or riba al-jahiliyyah. I mean, you read different names for but the concept actually is the same, right? Either riba is unavoidable, like when you go to Bank of America and apply for a loan, or otherwise riba al-jahiliyyah, when people used to lend to one another with no interest, and then they introduced interest, toward the end of toward the maturity of the loan. That is the riba that I'm referring to. So when I say interest, when I say usury, when I say riba, actually I'm referring to this one. And there is no disagreement between the four major madhab that we Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah follow regarding the prohibition of this category of riba. What kind of challenge we Muslims face in this society? Is it the status of riba, whether it is haram or halal? I don't think so. Everybody knows that riba is prohibited, right? The challenge that we are facing here is that what are those interest-bearing transactions to be avoided, and what are those interest-free transactions to be conducted, safely? How to navigate through the system and find out which one does involve riba and which one does not involve riba. That is the challenge, in my opinion. And the reason behind that, again, is that the examples that we read in the classical fiqh books are way different, way outdated from what we face nowadays in the real life on the ground when we go and transact and deal with the other people. I'll give you a few examples. Sometimes you come across a charge. You either charge others or you get charged by others. Okay, that payment or that charge is called late fees. It's called late fees. Sometimes you come across a penalty, financial penalty. Sometimes interest, sometimes overdraft charge, right? Sometimes bonus, sometimes commission. Those technical terms, you cannot easily find them in the classical fiqh books. So, is late fee, for example, the riba that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibited or not? How about the penalty? How about the overdraft charge? How about the interest? How about the bonus? How about the commission? How about the overtime? How about honorarium? Right? Different terms do not exist in those classical fiqh books. Now, our job actually is to navigate through the system and to find out if it is proven for us that any deal, any transaction, any contract, any agreement, right? Someone is advancing money, giving that money to somebody else, right? And the recipient of the money is guaranteeing the principal and guaranteeing the return. Oh, that is the riba that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibited. Whether it is called riba or called otherwise, we do not care. Whether it is called riba or otherwise, we do not care. Let me take you to another slide here. This qaida fiqhiyya, fiqh maxim, is a very fundamental one when it comes to transactions. Okay, it goes العبرة في العقود للمقاصد والمعاني لا للألفاظ والمباني. What matters in transactions is the essence and reality, not the wording or the formality. What matters in transactions is the essence and reality, not the wording or the formality. What does that mean? It means that, we do not care about the terms that you use in the agreement. We do not care about the terms. What we care about actually is the nature of the agreement itself. Does it involve riba? Is it proven that someone is giving money, risk-free, riskless transaction, shifting the risk, to the other party, to the recipient of the money or not? And that principle is guaranteed, and the profit on top of the interest is guaranteed. If that is proven, then this is the riba that has to be avoided. Now we want to call it riba, call it interest, call it whatever you want. We do not care about the name. This is actually what I mean by what matters in transactions is the essence and reality, not the wording or the formality. Always remember this qaida, this fiqh maxim. Very simple example. I give this phone, okay, to my brother here as a gift. So I'm telling him that I'm gifting you this phone. However, I will not give it to you until you gift me $50, right? So I'm calling it a gift. but in reality actually it is not. It is a sale agreement. If you want to take my phone, then you have to pay me $50. So we just manipulated, right? We just like manipulated the term. We use a different term. We just tweaked or. Dr. Shakir. This is Dr. Shakir Allah, the lead professor of Islamic Finance and Guidance Colleges, my colleague.
I'll pull this out because. Is it okay to sit here?
Yes, please.
And we have a lot of actual real examples that we can discuss. Let me start with the overdraft charge, right? Overdraft charge. I have a debit card, and the available balance is $500, which means that I do have actual real $500 deposited in my checking account. Is that correct? So I stopped by a point of sale, and I made a transaction of $700. $700. Usually, actually, it goes through. And then, whenever I receive the bank statement, I find out that, I have to pay the $200 plus $35 overdraft charge. It's not introduced to me as riba or interest, it's overdraft charge. Now, how to interpret what's going on here from a fiqh perspective, from an Islamic perspective, how to unlock the secret of what happened. When you purchase something for $700 and you have only $500, it means that somebody else paid that $200 on your behalf. Is that correct? Okay. Is it a gift or you have to pay it back? You have to pay it back. When you have to pay the principal back, then this is a loan. This is a loan. If the only thing you need to pay is the extra $200 that were paid on your behalf, then we have no concern here. But the problem here is that you have to pay on top of that another $35. That $35 by default is the riba that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibited. Now you might prove otherwise, by the way. You might prove that this is administrative, fees for processing, for whatever. That might be the case. But my point here is that the default rule, you borrowed $200, you have to pay them back $235. That is the riba that you need to stay away from. Another example is late fees. Okay, you are the landlord, and you sign a lease agreement. You sign a lease agreement with your tenant, with your lessee, right? $1,500 is the monthly rent. If you failed in paying the first 5 days of the month, then there will be a late fees of $50, for example. Okay. You did not lend him money, but by the beginning of the month, or sometimes by the end of the month, he owes you $1,500. So technically speaking, this is not a loan, this is a debt, because the tenant actually owes you $1,500, right? If you take and put in your pocket more than the $1,500, then the extra amount actually is counted as riba. Now, this is the debt. In most cases in the Fiqh al-Islami, the Islamic finance system, debt and loan are identical. In most cases, we do have some differences, but by default, the debt is equivalent to a loan. He or she owes you $1,500. If you take and you put in your pocket more than $1,500, whatever extra will be counted by default as riba. So late fees actually is riba. Now you might argue that by saying, okay, I'm taking that money, I'm not benefiting from it. I'm just putting that money aside, so I can just go after him. I can pay to a law firm or to a collection agency, right? To go after him and to charge him by force that money that he defaulted in paying. That is very possible. But again, my point here is that I'm here to establish basic rules, right? And to help understanding the concept of riba. Anything on top of the $1,500 will be counted as interest unless otherwise proven. A third example. I gave my colleague, Dr. Shakir, $5,000 as a loan for 1 year, and I told him, you need to pay me back $5,300 within 1 year. So the APR, the annual percentage rate, is how much? Let's make it 5,500. right? $5,500. So you have to pay me back $5,500, right? Within 1 year. Now, how about taking that 5,000 and instead of giving them to Dr. Shakir, I went to Chase and I opened a saving account. And based on the agreement with Chase, they have to pay me back $5,500. Do you think that my transaction with Dr. Shakir was an interest-bearing loan or not? Is it an interest-bearing loan or not? Yes or no? No? Fine. Actually, it is. I'm giving him $5,000. The principal is guaranteed, and the return is guaranteed. He has to pay me back $5,500. That's a straightforward interest-bearing loan. Okay. My question to you here: what is the difference between giving him the money versus putting the money in Chase or Bank of America as a saving account where the principal is guaranteed and the $500 return on the investment is guaranteed as well? Is there any difference, technical difference between the two? There is no difference, right? This actually makes it clear that opening a saving account is an interest-bearing transaction in which you, the depositor, the customer, is the lender, and the bank, the recipient of the money, is the borrower. Again, you will argue that by saying, how come that I have only 5,000, okay, lending my money to Bank of America who has trillions of billions of millions of dollars? That's correct, right? But when it comes to fiqh, haram and halal, we do not go with who has more and who has less. Okay, we go with the nature of the agreement. العبرة في العقود للمقاصد والمعاني لا للألفاظ والمباني. It is proven that I'm the one who's giving the money, and that money actually is guaranteed by the FDIC, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. Regardless of the outcome result of that deposit, they make a profit, they break even, they incur loss, I don't care. They have to pay me back $5,500 within 1 year. This actually makes it clear that saving account actually is an interest-bearing loan or interest-bearing transaction. Thus, it is not an option for a practicing Muslim to open a saving account. It is not. That's different from checking account. Some kind of haja or darura, necessity or public need might involve and change the rules. That's very possible. But again, we are here just to establish fundamental rules of riba. By default, opening saving account is an interest-bearing loan. So as you see so far, every single transaction you need to take one step back, okay, to interpret or to unlock the secret of the transaction, to navigate and find out if someone is giving money and that money is guaranteed to be paid back, at least by the contract, okay, and there's a kind of return on top of it that's guaranteed as well. If that is proven, that this is the riba that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibited, as simple as that. One more example is the mortgage one, mortgaging homes in the U.S. When you say that, okay, I mortgaged the house, what does it mean? How many transactions you went through simultaneously? Okay, before you jump to a conclusion and say that, okay, mortgage is haram or halal, we need to unlock the secret of the mortgage and find out what's going on. When you mortgage a house, traditionally, like when you go with Bank of America or Countrywide, it means that you are interested in buying a property or a house from the landlord. Okay, and actually you do purchase that house. So this is a sale agreement. You buy a house. Am I correct? Right. You do not have $500,000 to pay cash. That's why you go to the mortgage company or to Bank of America and you apply for a loan. Once your application is approved, Bank of America would issue a check payable to the landlord on your behalf. Right? Now, in order for Bank of America to secure their money, they mortgage the property, and that's why you see their name on the deed, but not as an owner, as a lien holder. So we ended up having 3 different transactions here. We have a sale agreement, and we have a loan agreement, and we have a mortgage agreement or lien agreement, right? We do not have any issue with the sale agreement because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَأَحَلَّ اللَّهُ الْبَيْعَ. We do have an issue with the second agreement, which is the loan one, because that's an interest-bearing loan. I mean, Bank of America would pay on your behalf $500,000, but you have to pay them $700,000 within 30 years. that extra money actually is the riba that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibited. The third agreement actually is the mortgage one. We do not have any issue with it. Okay? If someone wants to take $100 from me as a loan, and I do not know him, there is nothing wrong if I ask him, to give me your phone or give me your watch maybe or whatever you have, and I will keep it with me as collateral until tomorrow morning, until you come back and give me the money. And if you do not show up, then I will take that watch. That is the meaning of the mortgage according to the Quranic terminology. وإن كنتم على سفر ولم تجدوا كاتبا بحب النبي ولم تجدوا كاتبا فرهان مقبوض. That rihan actually is the mortgage. So again, we do not have any issue with the mortgage. We do not have any issue with the sale agreement. We do have an issue with the loan agreement. If you have a combination of 3 different transactions simultaneously together, 2 of them are halal and 1 of them is haram, can we be like so democratic and say, okay, let's go with the majority, 2 halal against 1 haram? No, actually it goes the other way around. In the Islamic finance system, if it is proven that you are getting involved in several transactions together, okay, at the same time, simultaneously, 1 of them is extremely, clearly, explicitly prohibited, that component, that segment of the deal will be more than enough to ruin the whole deal and just to make it a haram one. So again, the default rule is that mortgaging homes in this society is not a halal option for Muslims. Now you might say, okay, do we have darura, do we have haja? Shaykh al-Qaradawi rahmatullah alayhi 30 years ago, after that you can buy, all these different things are very irrelevant to our discussion, because we are here to discuss the fundamental rules of riba. Okay, is this riba or not? We need to answer, yes, this is riba, or no, it is not. It is not riba, and actually it is unfortunately riba that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibited. Now let's take only like one opposite example. Okay, you want to buy a house from your neighbor, non-Muslim neighbor, and he is willing to he's asking for $100,000. You do not have cash enough to pay him $100,000. He said, okay, let's do finance. It's gonna be $120,000 for 10 years. $120,000 for 10 years. I'm just giving random examples. Okay, and he insisted in the contract to write down $100,000 price plus $20,000 interest. Okay, for the next 10 years. And you said, okay, I do not pay interest. You said, well, this is what I have. You take it or you leave it. $100,000 principal or price plus $20,000 interest. Can you proceed with this transaction? Is the riba mentioned, captured in the deal, is the same riba that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibited or not?
Yes.
The answer actually, it is
No.
it is not.
No.
It is not.
It's a halal deal.
Yeah, this is an installment sale.
Yes.
This is an installment sale, because you are not borrowing money. You did not go to Bank of America and borrowed $100,000 and gave it to Mr. John Smith, and then you paid Bank of America $120,000. It was not the case. It was an owner finance. Owner finance means that John Smith actually is the one who is selling a property that he owns already. So he does have the right to ask for whatever price he or she wants, right? And it's up to you. You take it or you leave it. So despite the fact that riba has been mentioned clearly, explicitly in the agreement, it is not the riba that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibited. And back to the qaida, to the fiqh maxim, العبرة في العقود للمقاصد والمعاني لا للألفاظ والمباني. I think those examples are good enough for us, okay, good training and exercise for us to investigate and to unlock the contemporary transactions that we are like getting involved in. Always remember the definition of riba. Okay, if it is proven that someone is advancing money and that money is guaranteed and the return on the money is guaranteed, and that person actually is not taking any risk whatsoever, then this is actually the riba that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibited. Thus the transaction is haram. Why Allah Azza wa Jal prohibited interest? If everybody is happy, you go to Bank of America, you take $100,000 to upgrade your business, they charge you 3 or 5%, Okay, you make 10-15% profit, right? You pay the principal and the interest, and everybody is happy. Why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is still prohibiting riba? That's another good question. This scenario actually is I would say the prevailing scenario, the most common scenario that everybody is happy. But actually it does happen every now and then that instead of you making only 15% profit, you might make 100%, you might make 1000% profit. It does happen. And I know personally in some cases, a first-hand experience, where someone actually is making 10,000% profit. One of my friends in Houston, he's like a wholesale merchant. He said that I buy useless pants from somewhere, okay, and to process that useless pants from A to Z, I have to pay $1, cleaning, whatever, processing, packaging. I pay $1 out of pocket, and I sell it retail for $100. $100. So every single dollar he pays out of pocket, he receives it back $100. So it does happen in the real life that sometimes you make maybe 100%, 1,000, 10,000% profit. I don't think it is fair enough in this case that you pay to the bank or to the lender just a fraction of the profit, only 3% of the principal, and you keep the rest for yourself. Now, the other extreme opposite example is that for those, for example, who took loans in March 2020, just a few weeks before the pandemic, right? They took the money, and the whole economy in the United States just got frozen, got jammed because of the pandemic. Okay, that individual who borrowed money did his best to keep up with the business. Things did not work out. So he was unable to make a profit. He was unable even to break even. He lost the principal itself, right? The bank actually does not care about the outcome result. The bank, by the law of the land, by the agreement between you and Bank of America, the bank actually goes after you, asking for the principal and asking for the profit. Although there was no negligence, no carelessness from your side, but that is the deal. So both extreme examples actually do not bring justice. We call this model as a risk shifting model. The bank is just sitting, back and relaxed, has trillions of millions of dollars, giving money, exploiting, taking advantage of the need of the individuals or the customers, and you have to pay them back the principal and the interest. This risk shifting model is a non-Islamic one. The Islamic one actually is the risk sharing one. Where you establish a genuine and sound partnership between you and the other party. Even if the other party is the financier, he is not giving you a loan, he is getting involved in actual real partnership. If there is a profit, everybody will be enjoying the profit. If there is no profit, then you pay back the principal. If there is a loss and it is proven that you did not commit any negligence or carelessness from your side, believe it or not, he cannot even go after you asking for the principal. This is the justice that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to establish. لقد أرسلنا رسلنا بالبينات وأنزلنا معهم الكتاب والميزان ليقوم الناس بالقسط. The qist actually is the justice. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this ayah, Surah Al-Hadid, indicating clearly that the scriptures were revealed and prophets were sent to the community to establish justice. Justice actually is to have an interest-free agreement, okay, is to get involved in a real, actual, long-term agreement between the financier and the merchant or the manager or the one who wants to take the money. And again, if there is a profit, everybody will be enjoying the profit. If there is a loss, everybody will be incurring his or her share of the profit. I can go further actually with more details. Let me just take, after your permission, let me take a break for maybe 10-15 minutes and give the mic to my colleague, Dr. Shakir, to talk more about maybe Guidance College and the Masters in Islamic Finance that we have. And I'll get back to you, inshallah. Dr. Shakir.
Sure. I just want him to come over. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you doing, brothers and sisters? It's a pleasure to be here with you. I'm actually kind of local. I live in Rockville, Maryland. So Dr. Mann visited here, and I attended another session with him yesterday, last evening. It was a great discussion that we had, and there were so many questions that we actually ran over time, and we, even after Asia, we sit again to discuss the questions. And I expect the same level of enthusiasm and questions over here. And the reason that you're here is because you have got those questions. So we're pleased to be here and answer those questions. I'll briefly talk about Guidance College in the Islamic Finance Program. So we are a non-profit entity, and most of our operations are financed through donors' generosity. We offer lots of scholarships to our students, especially the new converts who join the college. We don't charge any tuition from them, and so those are financed by our generous donors. We do charge a little bit of nominal tuition fee, which is like $125 per credit hour. And you know that the other universities do charge a huge amount of tuition fee, like $700, $800, $900, $1,200 per credit. By the way, I forgot to introduce myself a little more in detail. My full-time work is at the Fayetteville State University, North Carolina. I'm working there as an associate professor of finance. I also teach finance class to the MBA program here at the University of Maryland Global Campus. I also supervised students at Georgetown University in Washington, D.C. I taught at the University of Southampton in the UK and in Pakistan. I have my PhD in finance, basically researching on Islamic finance from the University of Southampton in the UK. And I had my MBA in finance from South Korea, another MBA in management from Pakistan, and a bachelor's in mathematics and computer science from Pakistan as well. I taught for a few years in Pakistan. We did establish one of the country's first MBA program in Islamic finance at the Institute of Management Sciences in Peshawar. And later on, we received a huge funding from the State Bank of Pakistan. We actually became an official partner, training and development partner of the State Bank of Pakistan. And you know, State Bank of Pakistan is very keen and enthusiastic about the development of Islamic finance industry in the country. But later on, I moved to the US and started my career here. So I'm working with Dr. Mann as the lead professor of Islamic finance. So this program, the degree program that we have is our MBA program. And we have 36 credit hours, 2 years program. We offer 3 semesters per year, 2 courses normally per semester, but you can take more if you want to. And our tuition, as I said, is nominal. We do have the option if someone gets registered for the master's program and does not complete the full 2 years program, but winds up in the first year, we do give them like a certificate, a diploma for 1 year certificate. We also have shorter training programs. We have a certificate training coming up tomorrow. We've got 300 students. These are basically imams from all over the US and Canada. They have registered for it. So they'll be receiving a certificate, and that program is basically financed by one of our generous donors. So those who attend the certificate program will also be able to receive a $250 credit towards any Islamic finance course that they're taking. So we're basically offering them 2 courses initially. Now, one of the interesting things that we have like from the question that we had yesterday, very good discussion. And so we are at 2 continuums. So on the one hand, we are completely, we face an interest bearing system and all the financing on that side. On the other hand, we have some Islamic finance entities available that offer some of the services. And there were some questions like, hey, so if we go with the Islamic finance companies, is that completely halal? Is this completely Sharia compliant? We do have issues like, nothing is perfect. But if we want to move from the completely haram system to a halal system, we have to take certain steps. And the way you can contribute is to establish your own company. The reason that you're here is basically to educate yourself, and that is what we also do at Guidance College. We're educating the people. So 2 of our recent graduates who completed the master's program at Guidance College, one of them is working or has almost started an Islamic credit union, which is a big thing for us. Another student of us who just graduated is thinking about starting an Islamic insurance company, which we call Takaful. So that is what we contribute, and the little things that you can contribute is to attend the sessions like these, or probably if you are, if you can afford, you can sponsor a student at Guidance College. Those who are eager to learn about Islamic finance and our other Islamic education programs, by the way, but they cannot afford it, you can sponsor a student, or maybe two brothers can sponsor one student, or 3 brothers. So whatever you can, that would be the minimum that you can do to contribute to the cause, so that we can move from a completely haram system to a gradually more halal system. And how can we make it more and more Sharia compliant? The only way possible is to have more competition. So if we have more Islamic finance companies offering the service, of course, we'll have a choice to go with the one that is more compliant. And for that, we need more education in the field, and your support is highly encouraged. Thank you very much.
We go to the retirement account because we're running out of time. Do you want me to open, Brother Ayman? Do you want me to open the floor for question and answer from now, or just finish? Because according to the schedule, I do have. Okay, let's make sure.
So at 6:30, inshallah, we'll have Q&A and dinner.
6:30?
Yeah,
Inshallah.
you can continue
Until?
During dinner, we can have Q&A as well.
Okay.
Let's make sure we focus on a touch on stocks and
Sure.
Crypt, inshallah.
Okay. So the next sub-subject actually is the investment options that you have. First of all, before I go on details, I want to make it clear that taking care of your retirement account actually is required. It is, believe it or not, a part of your deen. You are not asking too much. You are not asking too much if you want to make sure that you are financially stable during your lifetime, and you are taking very good care, financially at least, of your family members. Allah forbid, if something happened and you passed away, at least you are leaving something behind. We need to have this concept in mind because I came across some brothers and sisters who are, mashallah, very conservative, very practicing people, so much so that they are dropping or waiving, right, compromising their 401k, their retirement account, because they are not 100% positive that their investment is 100% Sharia compliant. That is way too much. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ. Be conscious to your Lord subhanahu wa ta'ala as much as you can. Prophet ﷺ said, مَا نَهَيْتُكُمْ عَنْهُ فَاجْتَنِبُوهُ. Whatever I prohibit you from doing it, stay away from it. وَمَا أَمَرْتُكُمْ بِهِ فَأْتُوا مِنْهُ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ. And whenever I command you to do something, do it as much as you can. This is in general. In particular, when Sa'd, one of the companions of Allah, wanted to bequeath, like to donate after death, they call it bequest al-wasiyya. Bequeath is the verb. Wanted to bequeath two-thirds of his estate after his death, because he was about to leave and just leaving behind only one daughter. So he wanted to donate, if you wish, or bequeath two-thirds of his estate upon his death. Prophet ﷺ said, no, that's too much. He said, how about half? One half. He said, no, that's too much. How about one-third? قال رسول الله الثلث. قال الثلث والثلث كثير. Right? One-third, and even one-third is too much. And then listen to the justification and the fatwa of the Prophet ﷺ. This is actually my focus here tonight. إنك إن تذر ورثتك أغنياء خير من أن تذرهم عالة يتكففون الناس. Leaving your family members, your legal heirs, your inheritors, wealthy or financially stable, is way better than leaving them needy, begging people. So you are devoting yourself to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by taking care of your retirement account. Especially here in this society, maybe back home, we still have a kind of social connection system where if you go through some financial difficulties, you find your neighbor, your dad, your cousin, your friends, your in-law. There is a kind of moral, financial, social support. Unfortunately, it's not the case here in this society. So the least that you can do is to make sure that you do your best to make your retirement account as efficient, as profitable, as good as possible. Do not compromise it, even if you are positive that there is a certain percentage of the retirement account actually is not halal. Because nowadays there is no halal investment 100%. There is no such concept called halal investment. Even if you go to Malaysia, even if you go to Dubai, who do apply and adopt Islamic finance, there is nothing called halal 100%. Always there is a small percentage of haram involved in some way somehow. That small percentage could be coming from the high debt asset ratio, from the interest-bearing investment, from the actual interest generated by the stock or the company that you are trading in. There is a haram some way somehow. There is a certain percentage of haram some way somehow. Now your job is to make sure that you keep the haram to the minimum. Is number one. And number two, if you still have some haram components, financial instruments, profit in your portfolio, in your 401k or whatever the account might be, you just dispose the profit of that certain percentage. Let's say, for example, that you ended up having 90% halal investment in your portfolio, 10% haram. Every single year, you need to dispose 10% of the profit, not the principal, of the profit of your account, and then you pay zakah on the rest of it, and you just good to go, as they say. 15, maybe 17 years ago, one of my colleagues, his name is Sheikh Dr. Yusuf al-Shbaili. He was a member in the resident fatwa committee of AMJA. Have you heard about AMJA, the Assembly of Muslim Jurists of America? Can I see hands, just for my information? Yeah, we do have 7 members as a resident fatwa committee. I'm one of them. Our Sheikh Salah al-Sawi, and we have some other mashayikh. Sheikh Yusuf al-Shbaili was here actually a while ago. Anyway, he was with the opinion, listen to this, he was with the opinion that even if you are 100% positive that your all investment, your retirement account is 100% haram, okay? It's haram for the one who makes the decision on how your money to be invested, while the money actually is halal for you. Because the 401k that you receive or the retirement account is a part of the package or the compensation that you receive from your employer. You work Monday through Friday from 8 to 5 because of your master's or your PhD, you get such and such amount as a salary. And you receive the health care, health insurance and life insurance and what else, round trip, 2 weeks paid vacation. A part of the compensation or the package that you receive is a retirement account. right? So you deserve it because of being employed by that employer. Having said that, according to him, of course, I disagree with him, and even our official position as MJ is against what the Sheikh said. I'm just, sharing with you his opinion to give you a peace of mind that, alhamdulillah, we do have a lot of flexibility here, okay, when it comes to retirement account. He said that, forget about your retirement account, let your employer and the investment company, right, Fidelity, Vanguard, do whatever they want, okay, they commit the sin and the money actually is halal for you, because again, this is what you deserve, or part of it you deserve because of being employed by that company. Maybe this is like extremely lenient opinion. Our official position is that no, you need to do your best to make sure that your investment is as halal as possible. Having said that, those are generally speaking the options that you have. Something called the stable value fund. It's a kind of CD, like a certified deposit or saving account. This is not an option for you, period. Okay, it has a very, very the interest rate is very small, very nominal, but you'll be having a peace of mind. There is no risk whatsoever. This is not an option. The stable value fund. The balanced fund is not an option where you have 50% stocks and 50% otherwise. It's not an option as well. Now, the halal options, either to go with the local stock fund, where all portfolio is having stocks only, so you stay away from bonds, from derivatives, from options, from futures, all these different financial instruments, stay away from them. I'm not saying all of them are haram, I'm saying that you just stay away from them, because the vast majority of them do not represent anything that is tangible or valuable or brings like any additional value to the society. So you better just stay in the safe side and stay away from them. So whether you limit yourself to the local stock fund or international, or limit yourself to the stocks of the company that you work for, at the end of the day you have none but stocks in your portfolio. The other thing, limiting yourself to stocks only is not the only thing that you need to do. You need to dig in depth as much as you can and find out the haram that is involved in your 401k. What are the reasons behind the haram? It could be a guaranteed profit, like certain kind of stocks are called الصكوك we call it الأسهم الممتازة. What do they call them in English? When the stock when the profit of the stock is guaranteed. Preferred stock. Yeah, preferred stocks. That's the thing. Yeah, preferred one. So preferred actually one most probably is not an option. No unlawful dealing, no haram investment, no haram assets, no high debt asset ratio. Those are the standards or the criteria that has to be matched in order for your 401k or your retirement account to be as halal as possible. How much you can accommodate and achieve from those criteria, Allahu A'lam, just do your best. It might be a good option to roll over to any of those Sharia compliant, they call them commonly as socially responsible mutual fund companies. We have, alhamdulillah, maybe 15, 20 different Muslim-owned, socially responsible or ethically responsible mutual fund companies. Azad Fund is one of them, Amana Fund is one of them, Sharia Portfolio is one of them, Zaki Financial is one of them, and so on and so forth. So if it is an option for you to switch or to roll over your retirement account from Fidelity to any of those Sharia compliant mutual fund companies, go for it. Do yourself a favor, because those people actually will give you a peace of mind. They will handle your account from A to Z. They know very well how to scrutinize and how to filterize the haram. And even they give you the option if you want to pay the zakah on your retirement account on your behalf. Otherwise, if you cannot, as I said, like worst case scenario, keep it as is. Like for example, if you work for the federal government or for the state, they give you something called pension plan. Pension plan actually is a myth. You do not know what's going on. You do not know what kind of portfolio you have, what kind of financial instruments you have, none whatsoever, right? You do not even have an access to it. So if it is an option for you to purify and to clean, you have to do your homework. If not, just keep it as is. Try by any chance, by any way, to find out how much is the approximate haram involved in it, okay? And get rid or just dispose the profit of that haram percentage and keep the rest for yourself and pay zakah on it. This is actually briefly guaranteed profit, unlawful dealing, haram investment, haram asset, debt asset ratio undetermined. Okay, iltizam is not there anymore. There are two different Islamic investment companies in which I'm the Sharia consultant for them. So when I tell you that Zaki Financial, for example, is doing a Sharia compliant investment, I mean what I say because actually I'm involved here. It's called Zaki Financial, not this one. Zaki Financial, ZAKI Financial.com. There is another one called Atina, AATINAA.co, not .com, .co. So I'm the Sharia consultant of those two different companies. I know for a fact, that their practice actually is genuine and sound. The third one, in which I'm not like a part of the board of their Sharia advisory board, is called Azad Fund. Okay, I'm not on their board, but I know that they do have Sharia advisory supervisory board, and that board actually is active. So Azad Fund actually should be a good option for you as well. Let me go to currency. Okay, briefly, cryptocurrency actually is a kind of currency that is nowadays in 2022 that is imposing itself on us. We cannot neglect it. We cannot ignore it. It is there. Maybe it was something negotiable, questionable 5, 6, maybe 7 years ago, but it's not the case anymore. It is enough for you to know that the IRS itself is charging tax on cryptocurrency. So the federal government of the United States, directly or indirectly, is acknowledging the presence and the existence of cryptocurrency. So we cannot ignore it anymore. Our official position 5 years ago at MJA was that this is something really makruh, really disliked, stay away from it because of the big risk involved in it, and I will explain more. Nowadays, we discussed it within our fatwa committee a few months ago, we are more lenient than before, because again, a lot of intercontinental, international companies actually do acknowledge cryptocurrency as a payment method. Some central banks actually do the same, and as I said, the IRS actually is charging tax on cryptocurrency. What kind of concern we have when it comes to cryptocurrency? In order for any currency, okay, whether it is like gold or silver or even like fiat money, to be acknowledged, it has to be supported by an authority, a regime, a system, a political, financial system has to stand behind it and support it, like the American dollars, the bills that we use on a daily basis. It is supported and backed up by the government of the United States, by the Federal Reserve. It's not the case when it comes to cryptocurrency. So it is a very decentralized currency from day one. Mr. Anonymous from behind the scenes is doing his metrics, and we do not know who is behind it. We do not know why the market value or the purchase power of the cryptocurrency is going up and down significantly until today. Okay, I could not find any trackable, any measurable reason behind that significant fluctuation in its market value. So decentralized, very fluctuating, and it could be used easily for money laundering. That's why staying away from it actually is very, very advisable. Nowadays, if you insist in dealing with cryptocurrency, it's up to you. We do not dare saying it is haram, but again, it's not something that is within your comfort zone. You as a practicing Muslim, if you want to invest in something that makes sense, right? You buy, you trade, you manufacture, you sell, you construct, you buy a property, you sell it. Something that is tangible, something that makes sense, that adds some value to the society. But cryptocurrency, you do not know what are you buying and what are you selling. Sometimes you make profit, sometimes you incur loss. Maybe I mentioned it yesterday that a young man in our Muslim community in Houston, 5 years ago, he invested $250,000 in cryptocurrency, $250,000. And mashallah, within 5 years, the amount jumped all the way to $1 million. $1 million. Within just maybe 1 or 2 months, the amount went down all the way to 150. So he lost $850,000 within 1 month. And until today, Maskin, he doesn't know what's going on and why he lost what he lost. So again, it's a very, very risky, semi-gambling, nature business. Just to stay away from it. But again, I do not dare saying it is haram. Well, it is not. As long as it is prevailing, which is the case nowadays, then no one actually can, claim that it is haram. Mr. Boss, it's 6:05.
We still have time, inshallah.
Until actually what time is it?
6:30.
6:30.
6:30
We'll try to wrap up by 7,
presentation or question and answer.
6:30 will be Q&A, inshallah. Or 6:15 we can start the Q&A. Then we'll bring the food 6:30. So we can pray Maghrib at 7, inshallah.
طيب, let me after your permission, let me take the questions from now, because the questions actually will open our mind and our appetite to discuss different issues. Let me start from my right side here. If you are interested in the training of guidance college and guidance residential, go ahead and register. Go to guidance residential, I think, and register. So far, alhamdulillah, I have more than 270 people registered for a training tomorrow. It's going to be a webinar, 4 hours webinar on Islamic mortgage industry in the United States, from 11:30 all the way to 3:30 or to 4 p.m. So this is an invitation for all of you if you want to join.
That's
questions?
tomorrow, and it's also free, so no charges. You can.
Right. Mm. And if you are really interested in becoming like a specialist in Islamic finance, then Dr. Shakir actually is your man. He's the lead professor of the Islamic finance department at Guidance College, and he did actually introduce the Masters in Islamic Economics and Finance program that we have. Alhamdulillah, it has been like designed to fit the need of the Muslim community. What I'm presenting here actually is just like a free sample or appetizer of what we offer in this program for those who want to be specialized in Islamic finance. طيب, تفضل.
Assalamu alaikum, brother. Jazakallah for a wonderful presentation. Just a couple of questions. Number one, on the mortgage you talk about for the riba, and one of the contract for the mortgage is that not acceptable. I'm in a financials, and one of the questions I get that in state of Maryland, until $750,000 of your house value, your 100% of interest is tax write-off.
Tax what, I'm sorry?
Tax write-off. So whatever interest you paid on your loan until $750,000 of house, when you file your taxes, it will be deducted as you already made the payment, and you can write it off that's an expense on your write-off. So where do we stand on that? Number two.
طيب, let's make answer this.
Yeah.
Let's make sure we are on the same page. We are not discussing the mortgage issue from profitability perspective. We are discussing it from permissibility perspective. So if our concern is haram and halal, then the profitability and the saving, if you go this option or that option, should be like out of discussion, because it's all about permissibility, haram and halal. Profitability, that's completely different.
No,
direction.
you are absolutely right. I understand on that. We already got the point that it's not acceptable, but this is the challenge we are getting, that we do Islamic,
this is one of the challenges actually.
One of the challenges we get from the people that we have to pay taxes, and we buy the house, and we if we value is $700,000 and less, and the interest is already write off. So what should I tell them?
I think your question is not clear to me. Like you talk about the tax benefit, right?
No, yeah, the tax write-off. So you have a house value and for $750,000.
I got that part. But are you talking about the write-off from a Sharia perspective?
Yes, your interest, what you accumulated interest payment on your loan on your mortgage could be write-off when you file the taxes. So that's the interest you paid. Basically, you bought a house for $700,000. Your interest is 3%, 4% each year. Whatever you paid, at the end of the year, you're gonna write that amount out of your taxes.
Yeah. So if if you have financed your home through an Islamic company, Sharia compliant company, so that tax deduction that you get through the interest, that's the benefit that the government gives you. And in my opinion, and in majority of the other scholars' opinion, I'm not a scholar, by the way, it's according to the scholars, that is okay, that is permissible because the government is giving you that benefit. Like, just say if you are paying rent and the government introduces a program that whatever rent you pay, that rent expense is basically tax deductible.
Yeah.
So there's no problem with that as well.
Absolutely, but
Yeah.
if it's not guidance financial, or if it's not Islamic
Mhm.
Sharia compliance mortgage, and if it's a Bank of America and something other traditional
Mhm.
mortgage, and the interest you are deducting from your taxes.
So there's like, the whole thing, as Dr. Mann mentioned, there are 3 contracts involved in the initial financing. One of them is absolutely haram, the financing through interest.
Yeah.
Now the basic transaction is haram. The other thing is like, you're getting tax benefit. I don't think there's any problem with that.
Yeah, but the tax benefit is on interest.
Mhm.
But in Islamic finance, there is no interest. So you can't really claim a tax because you're not paying interest by definition.
So the interest that you pay, you get back with the taxes, right?
Yeah. So, Dr. Mann, would you like to comment on that? Like, the question here is
By the way, one of the things that the guidance financial, they do write on the contract that whatever the profit
Mhm.
as an interest, the guidance residential.
They write it as the profit as interest
Yes,
on the contract with you.
not for me, but generally, when they do the loan
Mhm.
contract.
So so there are 2 parts to that. One is the contract between the company and you, and that should be a Sharia compliant transaction. If that is not Sharia compliant, then there's an issue. And there are different instruments that can be used, like murabaha, diminishing musharaka, and others. Now, on the back end, where do they get their funds from? And they might be getting their funds from Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae, and that will be an interest-bearing transaction. Now, can we make sure that all that back-end process is also halal, and how can we make sure that? And if we start doing that, like, hey, I don't want to deal with, or you say that I don't want to deal with you because your business on the background is probably haram or something, then we will not be able to do the transaction. At least we should make sure that the transaction that you and I have is Sharia compliant. Where do they get their funds from is a different issue.
Yeah, that's guidance financial does take their money from Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae,
Mhm.
and then they also sell their contract to them as well.
Yeah, the contract is sold back to those companies, but in my opinion, and I think Dr. Rahman is also of the same opinion, is if you have your own contract with guidance residential, which is halal. Let's say I bought a house. On whatever money I borrowed from a bank, I bought the house for 500,000, and I sold it to you at 600,000. Now, the transaction between you and me, this like just cost plus. So you pay me cash or you pay me next year. The transaction between you and me is halal, because I sold you a commodity. I sold you a house, which is a halal commodity, and we decided we came up with a certain price, and we're not going to increase that if you default and stuff like that. Now, where did I got my money from? That is haram, but that's for me because that's the back end. The transaction that you and I have is basically halal.
But there's another question on that too. I'm sorry to bombard you with the question.
Yeah, sure, you can.
But the guidance, it's an open-ended contract,
Mhm.
and if they don't let you prepay, or they don't have for example, a Jara loan, a University Financial.
Mhm.
You can have a contract with them, and they tell them that, all right, your loan is this much, this is our profit,
Mhm.
and you have a 1 year or you have a 30 year to pay the full.
Mhm.
But the guidance doesn't do that.
Okay, so I think it's very important, Dr. Rahman, to have a disclaimer here,
Yeah.
is that we are representing Guidance College. We don't represent any of those
I know.
companies. So that's one of the things.
Yeah.
Now, so we're not defending their contracts. And as I said in the beginning, when I was talking, is that these things are not perfect. If we are looking for perfection right from the beginning, this is not. Okay. Now, the thing is that if we want to improve the system, there are other options that we can have. Like, let's say this group of brothers, they want, well, we don't want to deal with guidance residential or any others. They are getting their funds from Freddie Mac on interest or whatever that might be. What we can do is that we can collect our own funds. We can have our own company and start financing those whatever we want to do. That will be an extreme level of piety and thing.
Absolutely.
I think we need to move on with more questions, please. If you don't mind.
One of the things about the guidance, which is very different from the traditional loans, is that you're not signing any promissory note. With the bank, you have to sign a promissory note, which means that in case of any default, they have the right to come for your assets. But with their guidance, that's not the case. So that's one of the things that makes it sort of Sharia compliant.
Yeah, and there are other differences as well. It's not that's not the only thing. Like the liability in the house. What if the price goes down? What will happen in that case? Yeah, and the insurance. And what if you decide to sell it in the middle? Like after 5 years, 10 years, you decide to sell it. What will be the situations in that case? So there are a lot of differences. So it is not perfect. I would say nobody would say it's completely Sharia compliant. And as Dr. Mann said, like we don't even have a completely Sharia compliant or Sharia-based system, even in Malaysia or in Pakistan or countries like those. No, you cannot find it anywhere. But the thing is that if we try to improve the system, we have to start from somewhere, right?
I think we're going to have a deeper internet.
Okay, sure.
Let me take questions.
Assalamu alaikum. Jazakallah khairan for coming and sharing your expertise with us. I've been following Amjad for a long time. I got into real estate in 2002, and I had spoke to Sheikh Salah Sawi when he was at Dar es Salaam in College Park at that time. And because the people who were buying, who wanted to get involved in real estate purchasing, there was no mortgage, halal mortgage at that time, or as close to Sharia compliant as we could get. And in 2014, Amjad Committee reviewed some of the lenders, Islamic lenders in the United States, and they gave a fatwa at that time. And there were several of them. I think the one that stood out was Amin Housing, which they gave green light to eventually. And there was guidance, the second one. But in that fatwa, it said that in case of dire need, okay, very clearly, which is vague, your in case of dire need for you is different to what it's for me. So I wanted to get a little bit of clarification for that. And second is that has that fatwa...
Let me clear just the first issue.
Okay.
Just a few facts here. The 5 major Islamic mortgage companies in the USA, namely Guidance Residential, Universal Islamic Financial, Devon Bank, Ijara Loan, and La Riba. All of them actually deal in the secondary market. All of them securitize their products or their contracts, and they sell them to Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae, right? Amin Housing is the only one that is local, that based on membership and contribution. They operate independently from the second market. They do not sell their contracts to Freddie Mac. I was the Sharia consultant of Amin Housing a while ago, along with Sheikh Salah Sawi and Sheikh Jamal Zarabozo, and we deducted some violations, some glitches in the contract. We submitted them like a report that you need to fix 1, 2, 3, 4. They did, and based on that, we changed our fatwa. We updated our fatwa by giving them, as you said, the green line. When it comes to Guidance Residential operates as an investment company, not as a bank. So by the law of the land, they do have the right to possess and to own, to be the legal owner of the property. This is actually one of the very fundamental differences that gives Guidance Residential more credit as opposed to Universal Islamic Financial, Devon Bank, Ijara Loan, and La Riba. Okay. The other thing, is that those 5 companies, they have to comply with the requirements of Freddie Mac. They have to go with the standard, documents and paperwork and that's why you will be signing like a mortgage agreement, even with guidance residential and the Islamic one. The good news here is that the Islamic one actually is binding. It is as binding as the traditional one. The fact that they use the word interest does not make the deal interest-based one. We said several times العبرة في العقود للمقاصد والمعاني لا للألفاظ والمباني. Their mode of financing is different. They go with something called declining partnership. You pay only 3 or 5% down payment, okay, like equity in the house, and they pay the rest, and you start, renting and buying their shares, right? As Dr. Shakir said several times, no one actually is perfect. They do have some glitches in their agreement. One of them is that tax, maintenance, insurance is your responsibility, although they're supposed to share with you like proportionally. But to give them enough credit, as I said, they operate as an investment company, not as a bank. They create an LLC, and they put that LLC as a co-owner with you as a customer. Number 3, in case of foreclosure, in case of eminent domain, in case of natural disaster, they incur their proportion of loss. And this actually makes it very clear that those guys are really serious and looking for halal investment. According to our fatwa, according to AMJA, going with guidance residential does not require dire need, it's only need. Okay? But if you decide to go with the Universal Islamic Financial or with the loan bank, then you have to have a dire need. Where did we get this classification from? If the contract Dakhil Kareem is halal, it has no restrictions, right? It has no glitches, no violations, then it is halal by default. You don't have to prove your need to get involved in that contract. But if there are some few glitches and violations, then some need would justify the permissibility of that contract. If the amount of glitches and violations is really significant, right? Then you have to have a dire need, something that's very close to necessity to get involved in that agreement. Based on our analysis, we might be right, we might be wrong, Allah. I'm one of those people, by the way, who read the contracts of those 5 companies word by word, sentence by sentence. Can you imagine 85, 100 different pages? I have read them all. The amount of violations in UIF and on Devon Bank are way more significant than in guidance residential. They do not have musharaka. Musharaka means partnership. They go with the ijara, which is a very nominal and very fake one, right? The ownership is not proven. They go with the murabaha, which is a very, very nominal and very fake one. There is no ownership assumed, correctly, authentically before they resell the property. And that's why we said, well, if there is a really dire need, like you have been disapproved by guidance and you want to purchase a house, then go for it, right? Is there any need for us to purchase homes? Yes. This is the minimum that you can do for your family members. Make sure that you do not waste your money in paying rent. Make sure that you invest that money in buying a property. Remember the hadith that we mentioned several times. إنك أن تذر ورثتك أغنياء خير من أن تذرهم عالة يتكففون الناس. إيجار loan أخي is a broker. It's not even a bank. And it has been unanimously disapproved by AMJA. Disapproved. La riba has been unanimously disapproved by AMJA. Both options, La riba and Ijara loan, are not. They are like extreme, straightforward, haram, riba, very traditional mortgage process. They have nothing to do with Islamic finance or Islamic mortgage. Is that clear? Let me take more questions from the sister side here. Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to ask, how can students get help from this Islamic way? They get education from loans and all that. How do they get help?
We do have a fatwa in AMJA that our kids, our students have to work diligently to look for halal by default sponsorship opportunities, financial aid, scholarships, and grants. If those halal by default options are not there or they are insufficient, they can go with the subsidized loan. They can go with the subsidy, which is an interest-free loan for a certain period of time, and upon graduation, students will be having 6 to 9 months grace period to pay off in full. We said in our fatwa that if the subsidized loan is not available or available but insufficient, and the only option students have is the unsubsidized loan, which is a very interest-bearing loan from day one, then this could be interpreted as a kind of darura, And students actually can apply and can take a loan, interest-bearing loan for education purposes, with no restriction, right? The only condition here is to make sure that this is the only option, nothing else. Some people might get confused. Why AMJA permits student loans, the unsubsidized one, but actually we have a very firm position when it comes to mortgage. Well, when it comes to mortgaging a house, you do have an alternative. You can rent. If there is no Islamic mortgage, you can just rent a house. I mean, you don't have to, to own the house that you're living in. But when it comes to education, if you do not take a loan, then you are out of the program. So borrowing money for education purposes, for the undergrad, for the graduate, for the PhD, postdoctorate, MD, whatever the level might be, if this is the only option according to the official position of AMJA, it is allowable as a kind of dispensation or exception. Clear?
Yes.
Just to add to that, we found that the Muslim youth, subhanAllah, do not take advantage of the scholarship opportunities that are out there, and there are plenty. There's actually Islamic Scholarship Foundation in California. They do fund liberal arts and humanities types of programs. We do have here a scholarship program at ILI as well that funds some different types of things. You can check it on the website. Senators and Congress people have their local scholarships. So really we need to go out and look for this stuff. But generally speaking, we're not taking advantage.
There is another organization called Continuous Charity. You might look it up. Continuous Charity, I think that's something.com or that. They do offer interest-free loans for students. And I actually second what Badra even said, that unfortunately millions of dollars are returned unclaimed to the federal government because our kids are so lazy. They are not willing to invest a few hours to go after those. No, excuse me, we have students here, so. I take it back. They are not active enough to go after those halal by default.
Even don't know, it's okay. They're not aware.
It is helps.
You talked about stock trading. Can you shed a little bit of light on options trading as well?
Options are not an option.
Okay.
Because when you buy an option, that piece of paper that you buy or that financial instrument does not represent any commodity or merchandise or even a service. You are just buying the option, okay, or the ability of like reselling that stock to somebody else, if and only if it is proven that a certain stock, okay, let's say worth $100, and its option is $5, and if you buy the option, you do have the right to buy the stock itself, and if you decide to proceed, then you pay only $95 because you already paid $5 option, okay, or down payment if you wish. If that is proven and the stock actually is a halal one, then there might be a way, to justify or to permit this very specific scenario. Otherwise, according to the Fiqh councils, options, derivatives, CDS, CDO, what do you call them, futures, are like very, very fake, very artificial, very non-real financial instrument in the stock market. Stay away from them. Have a peace of mind. Just focus on stocks that belong to halal business. No.
Two questions regarding investment portfolios. Is there a percentage that are non-Islamically compliant businesses that you cannot go above?
According to AMJA, you need to go with the minimum debt asset ratio. According to AOF, which is the international organization, they said that if the debt asset or market cap, debt asset is 30% or more, the debt, the loans involved in it, then you stay away from it. If the interest-based investment is 30% or more, then you stay away from it. But according to AMJA, according to our Fiqh Council, there is no base for that 30%. Okay, if you have two options, like one stock has, let's say, 25% haram, and the other one has only 15% haram. Okay, and this one actually is good enough, profitable enough, you cannot go with the 25%. You cannot. You need to go with the less haram option. But if the two options are 25 haram and 35 haram, then you can go with this one. So it depends on the real circumstance that you're going through.
And for startup companies, they usually that enter the stock market where their debt ratio is very low in the beginning, but down the line, if you buy them very cheap.
When the debt is high, it means that you are trading money for money. Like,
No, but I mean-
like there's a significant amount of cash money involved in that stock, in which you sell it for more and for less. Buying money for money actually is not an option for us. That's why, we have to make sure that the debt actually is to the minimum. It's unfortunate actually that money in this society is very cheap, and companies like corporate America, they just prefer to like sleep with the money that they have, and they go to the closest bank, apply for business loan, and they keep just borrowing and borrowing and borrowing. So much so that sometimes actually the stock that you trade in might reflect maybe 40 or 50%, believe it or not, cash money. So when you sell it in the market, it means that you are selling money for money.
So you're saying that if it drops, the debt ratio, the company's value goes greater than 30%, that you should sell it?
According to, well, if it goes like above 30%, yes, I mean.
Especially like with pharma, the startup companies in the beginning, it's
No.
really difficult.
No, stay away from the startup companies. I mean, if you want to trade, then you can make sure that you find a company that's well established, and it's debt is to the minimum. But
Yeah, but I think he's right in the sense that, well, there might be some brothers who want to take the risk and invest in the startup companies, and that is oftentimes, you're taking a risk, but if it turns out to be good, it's highly profitable. The thing is that, and I would say like if you stick to the 30% because that's the IUFI stand on it. So every year when they release their financials, you can calculate the debt ratio, and as it moves above 30%, for example, you can just sell that off from your portfolio and get in some other company. So that would be the suggestion. If you still want to be like a financier or investor in the startups and take the risk.
I'm saying sometimes even the company that you work with will offer you stocks
Mhm.
at a very cheap, but then down the line, just because it's a startup company, they have, especially in pharma,
Mm.
they have to spend a lot of money before or something, and usually the debt ratio of the company's value is like 50%.
Yeah, but then you're not a trader in there, you're an
You're not,
employee.
you don't have control over it, but then
You're an
they give you
employee,
stocks.
you're getting a benefit.
Yeah, so that is kind of like, as Dr. Mann says, that is a kind of employment benefit that you get. And there's something that you don't have control over it. There are also sometimes there are restrictions on whether you can sell your stock or when do you actually get the ownership. So if they give you the shares from the beginning and you're still unable to sell it and their debt ratio goes up, I think there will be exclusion because you cannot give away your benefit that you got through your employment. But the best thing would be if you have options. There's one like 30% debt and there's another one with 20% debt, and you do have the option. They are both equally profitable. You would like to go with the 20%. Or if there's another one that has like a completely Islamic finance based balance sheet, then that would be the best option. But do we have that? I think no.
So from Islamic perspective, if it goes beyond 30%, you should sell it.
according to IOFI, and it is actually based on data, not based on evidence. That this is what is available in the market, okay? And based like studying the data and finding out different options in the market, they came up with this discretionary percentage, if you wish. 30% or more, stay away from it. Less than 30%, that you leave on. So the threshold is 30%. Once you reach it, then that stuff has to be getting rid of.
Yeah, and there's one more point here as well. Like if you invest in a company that also has some haram investments, like maybe they're receiving some of their income from interest-bearing transactions, then in order to clarify your profits, you will have to take, like if it is 30% coming from haram sources, you will have to take 30% off your profit and give it as charity in order to clean your I think that's the best way you can do it.
Right. You want to break for dinner now?
We can continue questions while, yeah.
Right. Am I invited for dinner as well? I'm not
I have to finish the first.
Seriously?
Kind of questions. I was given a credit card from by a bank, and I use it and try to pay it before the interest is due. But the more I use the card, the company pays me back probably after.
Yeah, that's the opposite of riba.
That's the opposite.
Because when you use a credit card, it means that you are borrowing money, right?
Correct.
So you borrow 100 and you pay it back only 95 because of the cash back, right? Yeah. And I always say that if you are worried, like so worried about those cash back, just give them to me.
So that's interest, right?
No, that's the opposite of interest.
That's the opposite.
If you borrow 100 and you pay it back as a borrower 105, that's haram. But in reality, with the cash back, you borrow 100 and you pay it back how much? 95. So you pay less. That's the opposite of riba. That's halal. No, totally.
I just need to have a little clarity, you had given the example that if somebody 100,000 and they say that you're gonna give me back 120, and you said that's not permissible. But under Murabaha, if you are making the agreement, and if it's not considered as extortion, then it should be okay.
That's the sale, أخي. يعني in المرابحة which is cost plus, we have to make sure that the financier, if you wish, is buying the property, closing on the property, being the exclusive liable, party for that property. Now, because of the risk that he took already, he can justify the profit, providing that murabaha actually is the least, Sharia compliant or the least compatible with the principles of the Islamic finance system. It's very close to the like interest bearing loan. Right? Because it's just like one process. You get in, you buy, and then you sell, and that's it. So it does not initiate an actual, real, genuine, long-term partnership. For home mortgaging, or home financing, the musharaka actually is the ideal option. Musharaka, not the murabah. Murabah actually is a very, like a semi-interest, even if it is done accordingly. How about if it is faked and manipulated? It's almost like a interest bearing process.
But then how do you make a differentiation with if you're doing a business, the profit is, you can charge a profit, because that's a lot, you can make a profit. Islam doesn't say that you cannot make a profit. So how does it differentiate that if you're saying that, okay, my commodity
It depends.
is $10.
It depends on the nature of the business. Like if you work for a company and you get your salary, let's say $7,000 a month. Okay, your salary is guaranteed, but this is not haram because this is an employment agreement. It's not a loan. We're talking about loan agreement. When you lend money, where the principal is guaranteed and the return is guaranteed. So this is the only scenario where the surplus or the extra money will be counted as riba. And even the principal, if it is guaranteed, that will be counted as riba. Because in the Islamic finance system, loan is not a mode of finance. Loan is not a mode of finance. If you want to finance for business, then you need to go with any of the different options that Dr. Shafir actually was touching on. But let's take a few minutes break until you start your meal, inshallah, and we'll continue. Please. اللهم بارك لنا فيما رزقتنا وقنا عذاب النار. جزاكم الله خيرا. بارك الله فيك.
Inshallah, as just a reminder, on your tables there's a sheet with QR codes on it. You can download these papers. They're from previous AMJA conferences. A couple of them by Brother Main Quda and a couple Sheikh Safis Sawi and Jamal Zarabuti. So make sure you get one of these if you have not received a copy, inshallah. And then
AMJA.